You think you chose the narcissist, but what if you were trained to? Not in one moment, over a lifetime. First came the craving, not for love, for glow, the warmth of being wanted, the electricity of being seen, the dizzy praise that lights up your nervous system like a prayer finally answered. But here's the truth. No one told you. That glow was engineered, in childhood, in silence, in shame. Every time you earned love instead of receiving it, every time affection followed performance, every time your pain was ignored until you smiled, you were being rewired. You weren't taught love, you were taught survival. Smile to be safe, nod to stay close, shrink to be kept. And so when a narcissist arrived, radiant, intoxicating, certain, your body didn't scream danger. It whispered, home, because they mirrored the same conditional warmth you've always known. And that's how it starts, not with cruelty, with glow. They flood you with light until you forget your shape. They study what you hide, then echo it back as desire. Not because they love you, because they need a reflection that won't resist. And you, trained by decades of emotional contortion, give it to them, willingly, beautifully, sacrificially, until the glow dims, until the warmth turns cold, until the performance is no longer enough, and they pull away, not in confusion, but calculation. Because to a narcissist, love is not connection, it's control, it's fuel, it's echo. And when you stop echoing, they look for a louder mirror. You were not weak, you were conditioned, you were not foolish, you were surviving. They didn't love you. They never could. But your hunger to be chosen? That didn't come from them. It came from the glow you were denied long before they arrived. So when you ask, why did I fall for someone like that? Understand? You didn't fall. You were led. They didn't fall in love with you. They found what you buried and pulled it into the light. Not gently, not to heal it, to use it. Because narcissists don't connect. They scan. They're not looking for love. They're looking for leverage. And what gives them power? The pieces of you still hide. Your need to be chosen. Your fear of being too much. The shame you carry for needing anything at all. They don't chase strength. They chase softness masked as strength. They sense who over-apologizes, who tries too hard, who shines just a little too brightly, because they're terrified of being invisible. They study it, mirror it, praise it, until you bloom in their gaze. But that blooming isn't love, it's exposure. You let them in, because they seem to understand the part of you no one else even saw. That was the trap. They didn't see your soul. They saw your silence. They didn't admire your depth. They mapped your ache. And once they knew where you were soft, they knew where to cut. At first, they pull you close, make you feel chosen, adored. Then, subtle shifts, backhanded compliments, tiny criticisms laced with charm, moments of withdrawal that make you question if you're too needy, too dramatic, too intense. You begin to shrink. Not because they told you to, because you don't want to lose the glow. But that glow was never real. It was bait. And once the hook is set, the pull begins. Not away from them, but away from yourself. You'll look in the mirror and wonder, when did I start apologizing for needing affection? When did I start defending someone who never defended me? They didn't betray you all at once. They slowly turned your hidden wounds into openings and walked through them. You didn't give too much. You gave where you were aching to be seen, and they saw it, not to love it, to use it. It felt like love. The way they looked at you, the way they listened, the way they made the world disappear, until only their gaze remained. But that wasn't intimacy. That was fusion. And fusion is not closeness. It's consumption. You weren't falling in love. You were being absorbed. That's the pattern. First comes the idealization. They flood you with praise, call you rare, sacred, say things you've waited your whole life to hear, not because they see you, because they sense what you need to be seen as. Then comes the subtle correction. They pull back, flinch at your tears, critique your joy, suggest you're too much, too emotional, too needy, too intense. You adjust, so you don't lose the glow. Then comes the confusion phase. They withdraw, return, withdraw again. Hot, cold, distant, devoted. You stop trusting your own feelings and start chasing theirs. That's not romance. That's reinforcement. And when you finally react, when you cry, confront, or pull away, they say you've changed. They blame your sadness on your sensitivity. They call your boundaries attacks. They say you're the unstable one. That's the inversion phase, where everything you do to survive becomes their excuse to discard you. They retreat, find someone new, replace you overnight. And when you ask what happened, they look at you like you're the problem. And still, you wonder, was any of it real? Did I overreact? Was it love and I ruined it? No. It was a pattern, not a story you failed to finish, a loop you were trained to stay in. They never loved you. They loved what loving them did to you. The glow, the ache, the performance. You thought you were building something sacred, but you were following a script, one they've given to others, one they'll give again. You didn't miss the red flags. You were taught to call them roses. You keep asking the same question. How did I let this happen? And every time you ask, you cut the same wound, as if self-blame will somehow prove you were good. But that wound, it didn't bring this on. It was why you stayed, not why they came. You didn't attract the narcissist. They found you because you still believed love was something to earn. That's not weakness. That's a scar. And scars don't mean you're broken. They mean you survived. You were not naive. You were wired for warmth. And when they offered it, even in counterfeit form, your nervous system lit up with hope. Because what you craved wasn't adoration. It was safety. It was attunement. It was being held in the place where you were once left alone. You didn't fall for charm. You responded to a wound signal so old it spoke your first language. They didn't trick you. They mimicked what your body had been taught to trust. So stop blaming the version of you who wanted love. She wasn't weak. She was starving. And she did what starving people do. She took what was offered, even if it wasn't real, even if it hurt, even if it hollowed you out. That version of you, she deserves a shrine, not a trial. You didn't betray yourself. You begged the world to prove that love could finally stay. And it didn't. Not because of who you are, but because narcissists don't stay. They feed. So if you feel shame right now, pause. That's not your shame. That's the echo of someone else's emptiness. And it does not belong in your chest. Not anymore. You were never the villain. You were the offering. But now, the altar is closed, and when you're ready to understand what happens when the mask slips, when the glow dies, and the hunger turns violent, then step into the next mirror. Watch the next video. The supply must flow. Part 3 to 4 of the Narcissist Series.